Today I cover a story that was written by one of the greatest writers of all time. The writer's name is Charles Dickens. My focus in today's story is not only on one of his books, which has a bearing on us today, but it is about the spirit of Christmas. It is a story whose flavor has remained for 1.5 centuries. It is a story of triumph over adversity, of love, of restoration, of renewal, of hope, and of faith. It is a story of self-belief after a period of doubt. The story is entitled A Christmas Carol. Let's get straight into our luminous story. This episode will be the first in a 2-part series. Brace yourself for a captivating story. A Christmas Carol is the second greatest Christmas story ever told. From its first publication, Charles Dickens' book, A Christmas Carol, has charmed and inspired millions. It has been adapted for theater, for television, and for film. This has made it one of the best loved stories of all time. What is less known is the fact that the book is a product of a dark period in the author's career. In some ways, it is said to have changed the course of the life of Charles Dickens forever. In 1843, in October, the weather was uncharacteristically humid as Charles Dickens walked the so-called black streets of London. He was a handsome man with sparkling eyes. He was 31, a father of 4, but he was deeply troubled. What was his problem? He had had success with the Pickwick Papers, with Oliver Twist, Nicholas Nickleby, Martin Chuzzlewit, which had been published in series. But the popular writer was facing serious financial problems. His new novel wasn't selling as he had anticipated. He had to cut on advances and logically on expenditure as well. Charles Dickens was stunned. Memories of his poor background flooded his mind. He had an extended family to fend for. His wife was expecting a 5th child, and the whole family looked up to him. Charles Dickens was overwhelmed. Throughout summer, he had struggled financially with all sorts of bills. He had trouble sleeping at night. He didn't understand what was going on in his life. Were his readers beginning to doubt his gift? He needed a new idea, and he needed it very fast. The idea had to give him money, or he would be doomed. Charles Dickens had night walks in which he hoped to provoke his imagination. He walked around the Thames River and observed the Great Divide. What was the Great Divide? The Great Divide was the gulf that existed between the rich ladies and gentlemen of London and the streetwalkers, the prostitutes, the thieves, the beggars that he saw on the streets. Charles Dickens was frightened. He was living in a divided society. Charles Dickens went back in time, way back in time when he was only 12. The horror of his past was unimaginable. He was haunted by the prospect of failing to pay his debts and to look after his family. On getting back home, something suddenly hit his subconscious mind. He had to write a Christmas story. The usual struggles on the streets of London. He had to be fast. It was October and Christmas was less than 3 months away. He started right away with a target. He had to complete the novel by the end of November in order to facilitate printing and distribution. Charles Dickens was under pressure. What started as his little scheme to redeem himself turned into the joy of the season he so much cherished. He began to slowly get rid of his depression. The story became more than a collection of joyous family parties. It became a story of love. The characters became magical. Tiny Tim with his crutches, Scrooge cowering in fear before the ghosts, Bob Cratchit drinking Christmas cheer in the face of poverty. Charles Dickens became deeply engrossed not only in the book but in the spirit of Christmas. He is said to have pointed out, "I was very much affected by the little book. It was a mysterious story," his friend and future biographer John Foster said. During the writing of this story, Dickens is said to have wept and laughed and wept again. To show his strong desire to see the book succeed, he actually made the important decisions such as the cover design, the title page, and the colors. He priced it at 5 shillings because he had the readers in mind. Thank you for watching this first episode of A Christmas Carol. See you in the next and final episode when we look at the impact of this story, not only for the Victorian society, not only for England, but for the world at large. It's bye for now.